Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of the Reality Creators podcast. Today I got Byrne on, and I've met Ben both in person twice on two different live events, and then also I worked with him or hired him as a coach to help me with my sales and just help me like organize my schedule, organize my life. The reason I worked with him was because I heard him on a podcast with Tej Dosa. So there's a couple of things that you said in there that really stood out, and I'll get into those in a second. But I'm curious to hear from you, since this is the Reality Creators podcast, like what your experience has been with stuff that you probably can't logically explain, but things just like falling into place or allowing you to, whether it's through
Yeah,
visualization or whatever else, like create your own reality.
dude, right into the deep topics right away. I love it. I've had quite a few experiences actually. The most notable one was when I basically read the book Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And this was at a time when I was like dead broke. I just came back from Europe and I like burned through all my money. And I was like, I need to make like 10 grand in the next like 7 days just to pay off all these bills. And I read this book. It's like, okay, you have to like visual, like, first of all, you have to feel the emotion of like gratitude of like as if you already received the money. And I was like, okay, well, let me try this. So I sat and like did this meditation every night for like 7 days. And on the 10th day, it was like, boom, I had 10 grand in my bank. We kind of made an offer just out of the blue. We're like, hey, what if we did this thing, me and my buddy? And we just instantly made like 20 grand. So I was like, damn. And so that was the first experience. And then the second one, I was like, I want to meet a girl. I was kind of like visualizing like the type of girl that I wanted to meet. Like she has to look like this, have this kind of attitude. And then ended up meeting a chick just like that, like a few days later. And she's my girlfriend for like 4 months, 4 years after that. Um, another time is like this is another crazy experience. I had a coaching business for like 3 years, and around COVID we ended up splitting it up, and I just ended up doing nothing for like 9 months. I had no desire to start another business, and I was just like watching my cash dwindle every month on bills. I was like, fuck, what should I do? And one night I was just like praying. I kind of remembered back to this old exercise of just like feeling gratitude, and I was just put it out there. I'm like, you know what? I really just need to find something that I'm good at, that I don't have to go and get like a normal job or something like that. And literally 2 days later, I got a text from a guy named Brian Ostermiller, who's Cole Gordon's partner. And I kind of knew it, like we were Facebook friends. And he goes, hey Ben, like, what are you doing these days? And I was like, not too much, bro. He's like, I was meditating and you just popped up into my mind. So I figured I'd like reach out to you. And then I ended up working on Cole's team after that for like a year. So Cole Gordon is like one of the biggest sales teams in the industry at this point.
One of the most high performing, one of the best. Yeah, that's incredible. So I did a similar ideal girlfriend journaling exercise, and then my wife
Yeah.
came into my life, or my now wife. My girlfriend came into my life, and within 3 months after that, and it was like
Yeah.
so interesting that because I took the time to put it in paper and clarify exactly what I was looking for,
Yeah.
then that's what I saw and found, and yeah, it's incredible.
It's kind of like if you go to like a restaurant, the way that I feel like most people they're not really clear on what they want. So it's like the the analogy is like if you go to a restaurant in a country where you don't speak the language and you're open the menu and you're like, okay, you're like the waitress is like, what do you want? And you're trying to communicate by pointing, but you're like, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. And she just think, okay, like she just brings all you the stuff. And you're like, why did you bring me all this? I said I don't want it. Whereas if you're clear, it's like you're putting like you're ordering a meal or something out to the universe.
The analogy that I've used when helping people get clarity is like, if you're aiming or shooting at a target, you need to be able to see the target before you can hit it. Like if it's just
Yeah.
that way, good luck. But the more and more clear it gets, even when it has colors and like rings around it or whatever the case, it seems to, it's way easier in this analogy to hit it. And it's the same thing with, at least from what I found, when I can picture something or visualize something, the more details that it gets and the more times that I repeat that visualization, the sooner it comes into my life. Do you have any experiences like that?
Yeah, man. Like in 2017, I remember I bought Sam Ubben's program, the Consulting Accelerator. And it was a pretty good program, but there was one thing in particular that he had this like formula. It's like your current situation equals, he had a big formula. It's like your plan plus execution plus to the power of time equals your like your goal, right? And I was sitting there and I was kind of thinking about it, and I was like, well, what if you just took time and all this stuff out of the equation and you just like acted as if you're already at your goal? And I started just thinking like that as an experiment. And I remember at the time I had this like mindset document, which kind of had like a vision board type of stuff and had a certain apartment in there and all this other stuff. And, you know, it was just a dream of mine to live in this like really big high rise, like almost like a penthouse place. And within like a year or two, I was living in it. I was like, damn, it wasn't like immediate, but I remember looking back at that document. I was like, holy shit, like it basically came true. So
Everything, right?
yeah,
Maybe not in the exact like format that you had expected. I got introduced to the identity document through Tej Dosa's one of his courses, and
yeah,
wow, like every time I've done something like this, where I've drawn out my ideal future, I've created it almost exactly. And
yeah.
I've done a similar, there's a journaling prompt that is like write a very detailed a day in your life in 10 years from now.
Mm,
I did that for the first time in 2017. And again, I got everything that I wrote.
damn.
Kind of looked in the exact way, but it was like, because it was my dream for the longest time after 2017, after traveling to Asia. I was like, I want to be a digital nomad. Right. So
Yeah.
I started writing about that, being able to wake up wherever, wanting to live wherever. Now I don't love like that term, I guess. I don't know why I have an aversion to that, but I created that exactly a full online income. I created escaping from or leaving the government job that was like kind of a golden handcuffs thing, all from just writing it out. So, or like
Yeah, bro.
preceded that.
Do you know the number of people that actually write down their goals?
I
It's like
think it's like
extremely
3%,
low. It's
right?
very low, yeah.
And then
And
people,
they did like a long-term study of these people, like a certain amount of them wrote out their goals in like a classroom, and then they followed up with them like 20 years later. And all the people that wrote out their goals were like way more happy, way more successful, just had a way better life than the other people because it's like you said, if you can't see the target, you're not going to hit it. If you don't know where you're going, and you'll wind up anywhere, right?
yeah. Dan Cohen, one of his videos, man, it spoke to me so much. It's talking about programming from society and how
Mm,
if you don't choose your goal, a goal will be assigned to you. And most people didn't choose their goal. So they're running the rat race, running that program that like our parents gave us of like, this is how you be successful without questioning anything.
yeah,
And they they don't even realize that they're not going after their goal, but almost no matter what your goal is, you end up getting it. If you have one, if
mm,
you don't spread yourself too thin. I've made the mistake so many times of like trying to juggle three different businesses or three different things, and that doesn't work. At least not for me.
yeah.
But you
You're
were
not like Elon Musk.
exact. I don't know how he. I mean, I see him do it, and then I'm like, oh, I can do it. I just need to structure my day in a certain way. But no,
Yeah,
at least
I just
hasn't.
need to like gratitude journal.
Right? Yeah. So earlier you gratitude journal. Um, Earlier you're saying like pretending as if time doesn't exist and acting as if you already have the thing. I think this is
Yeah,
step number two. I think step number one is getting extreme clarity and being able to see it ideally in your mind's eye, being
yeah,
able to visualize it, maybe being able to visualize it over and over and over again. But this like acting as if you already have it, this reminds me of this Russ quote, like as money will come as soon as you know you already have it. And
yeah.
it's not just money, it's everything.
It's everything.
Like as soon as you know you already have it, which is so interesting because I'm listening to this book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, I got that one back there somewhere. Yeah.
Amazing. He was talking about praying and how to pray. And he was like, basically like, I'm going to teach you how to pray. And he's like, most people pray wrong. They beg. They like ask, like, please, will you
Oh,
help
they
me?
beg. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Please, will you help me do this? Right. And they're doing it from a state of lack.
Yeah.
Whereas he gave an example of somebody who was like, there was somebody who was extremely ill and she led the prayer and she's like, thank you, Father, for being with my mother right now and the healing energy that's around her. And it went into this extreme detail all the way down to like, and we're so thankful and grateful for the people you've surrounded her with. And
Yeah.
the people who are taking care of her, they always know the right thing to do, the right thing to look at. And then like
Hmm.
it went from an incurable disease to like she was better in like a couple weeks.
Wow. Man, the way I think about it, I mean, Joe Dispenza kind of explains it in his own way. It's like when, like gratitude, like when you already feel grateful for it, it kind of draws it into your life. But when you're like, oh, I need this money, I need it, you're coming from lack and it repels it. But in the levels of energy, like for example, like that, like the like desire is like a very low level of energy. It's like 125 or something like that. Desire is like, I need the thing, I need the thing. It's the same thing. It like repels it. But once you feel gratitude, it's like a much higher level of energy. And it's like, it's not just wanting the thing, but I think it comes down to also like your frequency or your vibration or whatever, becoming like an energetic match for the thing.
Yes. And I just learned this from Danny's retreat. I had seen, it's funny that you held the book up. I want to just show everybody. I had seen this map of consciousness. The book Ben has, Levels of Energy, talks about the same
Yeah.
concept, has the same numbers. And these lower level ones, like shame, guilt, apathy, grief, it's interesting because you can measure overall at a higher level, but you still will probably have pockets
Pockets.
of
Yeah.
these lower things, which overall
Yeah.
bring you down. And what I have found, like what I learned both from Danny's retreat and just in general, is releasing those,
Hmm.
like going back to that experience or whatever, like finding the actual trigger for what is the thing that's making me feel guilty or shameful, right? And then
Yeah.
essentially just like either writing about it and releasing it through a journal prompt or like telling somebody about it seems to
Mm.
release it.
Yeah, I had my first experience of that again back in like after I bought Sam's course because I went deep into the mindset stuff. And I remember I had like you could like you say pockets of like a lot of negative energy, and I felt it like leaving in like parts of my body. Like I would feel a random like pain in my leg, and then it would go away, and I'd feel like way more energetic after, and I just felt way better. And it was really weird. I remember at the time like I didn't really know what was happening, but
How did
um
you do that? Like, what were you consciously doing?
I mean, a lot of it was like affirmations and kind of just the base, like just following his program, really, just like the
Okay, so why do affirmations work?
because the way I think about it, if you you look at the average person's self-talk, it's super negative. It's like almost always negative. Oh, like I'm not good enough. Like it's just bullshit, right? It's just whether that's your programming or just whatever. Like affirmations are one of the few times where you're consciously um one, you're rewiring that. So you're speaking positively, you're creating like new beliefs. And the way like the beliefs work, it's like you basically just stack evidence for if you believe that you're a loser your whole life and you can never be good at sales, it's like you just kind of keep stacking the opposite. And eventually um, you just adopt that new belief. And so that's part of it. Actually I had a really weird experience because I was like very much against this stuff before I bought this course, and I was always just like, "Oh, just tell me the sales tactics, or just tell me like how to get the leads or whatever." And I started going through the mindset stuff. I was like, "This is stupid." And I remember at the time I was reading the first night I was reading. There's like 100 affirmations, and he's like you have to read them out loud right before you go to bed and right when you wake up. And at the time I was reading them, and I had a cat, and my cat was like just like looking at me like I felt like an idiot. I'm like say I'm like I always act today. I feel blah blah blah. and it's just like saying all this stuff out, and I'm like, this is stupid. And then I like went to bed, but I felt like a charge in my chest, like electricity. I was like whoa, whoa, like what is that?
Do you know
Yeah.
what it was you were saying right when that happened?
Well, this is after I did all the affirmations, like a
Oh,
hundred
okay.
of them. Yeah.
Wow. That's so interesting. Lately I've been doing a meditation where I just like have the mantra, I love myself. I love myself, like over and over again while I'm just sitting silently with my eyes closed. Or sometimes I'll do it during the breath hold when I'm doing breath work, like Wim Hof.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I felt the experience too of like my heart, like, I don't know if I would say
Like
opening.
opening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would say, right? Felt something there, and then even afterwards, I felt more comfortable to stand, like with my
Yeah.
shoulders more back and open, and from just like an affirmation or a mantra over and over again, meditation.
Yeah. When you read like certain books, like there's this book I read by this guy named Michael Singer called The Untethered Soul. He had two books. One of them is like an autobiography, and the other one is a bit different. But I read them both, and like basically the autobiography is his life story. He kind of like was a hippie living in the woods. He built his own little house, and people slowly started moving in there. I'm not sure if you read the book, but his whole thing, his entire life, was just like keeping his heart open. That was his like spiritual practice, and not letting like heartbreak or something or negative situations like close off his heart. It just kind of like trusting in the universe that whatever to just take like basically to take care of him. And he ended up becoming like a multimillionaire, like running like a $300 million company, and that was his whole thing. And lots of spiritual books kind of talk about like for example, reality transurfing. Did you read that?
No,
It's a long fucking book.
yeah, no, I think I tried and I wasn't ready for it. I think that like
Yeah.
it just didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, like that book in particular, it really emphasizes like aligning your heart and your mind. So usually like your heart will tell you to do something, but your mind will be like, no, don't do it. So for me, for example, when I went to Costa Rica with you, um, when you told me about it, I was like, oh hell yeah, that sounds awesome. Because I wanted to meet Solbra and I wanted to go to Costa Rica and meet you again. And I was like, yeah, that sounds perfect. But then my mind started talking me out of it, like, oh no, you just spent all this money, like you just spent all these bills. And I was like, I almost talked myself out of it, but luckily Solbra closed me. He's like, hey bro, did you pay yet? And I was like, oh yeah, and I just paid. And then like literally like 24 hours later, like a dude hit me up. He's like, hey, like I want some coaching. And I ended up like yeah, he ended up paying for the entire trip basically, and then some. And the same thing with buying the hiking stuff because it was like $600. I was like, I just bought all this goddamn hiking stuff. And as soon as I got home, I got a DM from an old client. He's like, hey, can we jump on a call? I need some help with something. And I was like, yeah, sure. He's like, I'll pay you. I'm like, you don't have to pay. He's like, yeah, I want to pay you. It's like, how much do you want? I'm like, I don't care. He's like, I'm gonna pay you like $500. It's like, damn, okay. So it's like when you follow your heart, basically, it's like this. Like, it's I think that like your conscience or something like that. It's like when you follow that, it's like that little voice. Usually, like when it's like when you're, I don't know, you get a random feeling like, oh, maybe I'm going to go right today instead of going left when you're on your regular route. Let's just say, and then it turns out when you went, if you would have went left, you would have like, I don't know, been stuck in traffic, or you would have got like, I don't know, like hit by a fucking bus or something like that. And it's like
Yeah,
we're being guided.
yeah, that's what I would call intuition, and I'm like learning to trust
Yeah.
it more. I had an experience, my now wife and I were walking in the woods in Mexico, and it was like I got this just like, huh, we should turn here and go put our hands on the tree to like feel the energy or whatever. And we went over there, and then apparently this guy who had been following us like walked past us and then came back around and came up to us and like talked to us for a little bit and then pulled a knife and tried to rob us. But because we were by this tree, we had like my wife had a really good path to run down, and
Yeah.
had we been, and I had not a path, I had to run through like bushes and tripped and fell, and it was
Yeah.
wild because he was chasing me. But the had we not taken that detour, we would have been
Mm.
on the main path, and he would have like come up behind her and just like held her hostage with the knife. Like it was like
Crazy.
so perfect that we went over to that tree. Like, had we not done that, we would have been in big trouble. Well, and
Yeah,
lost
bro.
stuff that we had that he was trying to steal from us. So
I mean,
didn't
I had an experience. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
this the ice block one?
Yeah, the ice block one, man. Like that's still the craziest thing that one of the craziest things that's happened to me. I was here in Halifax. I was at the gym. It was like March. It was around this time, so there was like no snow on the ground or anything. I was just leaving the gym, walking to my car, and crossing the street, and suddenly, like, I felt like I heard like a voice that say stop, like you should watch for ice. It was like basically that thought just appeared in my head, and I stopped, and a huge block, boom, like right in front of me, like probably like a foot in front of me. I was like, whoa, like holy shit. And uh and then later when like I was still copywriting at the time, and I remember I was researching for like a survivalist offer. I didn't know anything about survivalists and preppers and all this stuff, so I was on these forums, and there was like a thread with like 300 pages of like creepy outdoor stories, and there's so many stories of something similar, like people um people being like standing in a warehouse and a voice just says, hey, step back, and the guy steps back and like a massive steel beam swings down where he was standing, or like driving on the back of an ATV, and like some voices jump off, and they just go, and they jump off, and then next thing you know the fucking ATV crashes or something like that, and they would have been killed. And there was like so many stories like that. Or people, like when you talk about like intuition, like people being out for a run in the woods, kind of like you were just like walking, and like, and suddenly they get overcome with like fear, and they're just like, oh fuck, and they just get out of there, and it turns out either there was like a grizzly bear in the area, or like someone was just killed, or like mountain lions, or like all kinds of crazy stuff. And yeah, it's definitely a real thing, like the intuition, and like we don't study it enough, like as a society.
No, like intuition and the placebo effect, just energy in general. Because you can feel, just like you managed, like said that somebody's walking in the woods and they all of a sudden get scared and run away. I
Yeah,
recalled and was visualizing in my, I was out for a walk by myself, recalled and visualized that exact experience that I just told you about this guy like robbing me, and I felt it, just so
yeah,
much fear, and I felt so bad. And then I looked, and some guy was approaching, and I was like, on private
right.
property, I ducked under a fence, so I was like, I didn't know if he was a property owner or what, but I did not get a good feeling. And he came up and he was like very stern, like in Spanish, like, what's your name? And I was like,
Yeah,
hey man, what's like, my name's Jeff, what's your name? And he still just like, just looked angry. And I was just like, I don't want to figure out what's going to happen here. I'm just going to run away. And so I just like, just like ran away. And he walked the whole time, but he was like, came after me, like chased me. So,
oh fuck.
I didn't figure out what, I think it's very unlikely that I was wrong, that he didn't have bad intentions. I didn't in the end know,
Yeah,
but it was just this feeling. And it reminds me of, do you know what the Higgs field is?
not really.
I guess it's like in reality, something that connects everyone, like a web of, like
Okay.
Tej explained it in a course, is like unset jello, and how we're all connected. And that's how we can feel and feed off
Hmm.
of people's energy or emotions or whatever. Have you had the experience? Well, I'm sure you have, but when you're around somebody and they just like instantly change your mood for the better, or they're just like somebody that
Yeah.
just like glows or has a not a visible aura, but
Yeah, of course.
yeah. And
Yeah,
so
and I've had that experience a lot, you
is
know.
that the same thing? Do you think? Just on the
I mean,
positive side?
possibly. I think people are just like sensitive to energy. I mean, in the levels of energy, they say, you know that you're in the presence of like someone who's like enlightened if just being around them like elevates your mood, just like for no reason. Like even if they're not talking to you or something, you're just like, whoa, I feel like way different. Like in India, they have like they call it like a darshan, which is like we're just looking at the guru, like you get like a blessing kind of thing.
Wow, incredible.
I was gonna say, what was I gonna say? Ah, I had
It'll come
something.
back.
It was very interesting. Yeah.
So you were just talking about like us going to the Soul Brow retreat, I actually have his book right here. Something
Oh,
interesting he was
nice.
talking about, which was in the book, he was talking about making a decision and listening to your heart, like you were
Mm,
talking about earlier. And what he says, if all
yeah.
else fails, like if you can't figure it out, like it's a really tough decision. He said, put it up to a coin toss, flip the coin, and then when the coin is in the air,
Like which one do you
whichever
want it to
side
be?
that you're like wanting, like, oh, I hope it's heads. It's like, oh, well, that's your
Yeah.
answer. So it's like an interesting
Yeah.
way to like hack it. But I've had experiences doing that. Like the one that I can remember is like I was drinking soda and I was like pushed to the vending machine. I'm like, I don't know which one I want. And I pushed them both. And then I was like, oh, please be Dr. Pepper, please be Dr. Pepper. And I was like, okay, well, and I didn't get it. I got the other one, which is funny.
Damn. Man, what like have you read Levels of Energy?
Yeah, I've all but the last like two chapters, I think. I said I have it
Have
downstairs.
you read his other book, Parallel Universes of Self?
No. Should I?
This is an interesting one. I mean, it's interesting. It's good, but it's mostly like exercises. I when I first time I read through it, I was like, God, there's just like a lot here. It was like take you forever to do all these different exercises. But there's like a lot of interesting experiences that he talks about in this book too, time, like time. I forget what he calls it, like a time slip. Like he said, he was like with his girlfriend and went to the spa, and like they both walked into the changing room and at the same time, and he said that usually she takes like 10 minutes to get changed and stuff, and he walked out within 30 seconds and she was already there waiting, and he was like, whoa, like you're already done? And she's like, yeah, I've been waiting for like 10 minutes. He's like, what? In his like, he's like, I time slipped. It was like, for me it was only like 10 seconds.
Huh.
There's like a lot of stories like that. Like this, I think there's just like so much weird stuff out there that we just aren't really, it's not in our reality.
Yeah, you were talking earlier about pretending time wasn't real. And it sounds like this like it's because you can get lost in time when you're like in a flow state and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that was just an entire
Yeah.
2 hours. Or like when I used to rock climb like big missions, it was like, whoa, that was an entire day. That was 8 hours. Where did it go? Because we were so like locked in to the flow.
Yeah.
And then other times when I was working a job that I really didn't like, time was
Yeah. It
so
feels like a,
slow, constantly looking
yeah,
at
it
the
feels like
clock.
2 days.
Yeah. Um, so
Yeah.
I,
There's like psychological time and then like chronological time. It's like what they talk about in like the power of now.
yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. You were talking about everybody, like why affirmations work and everybody having poor self-talk or negative
Self-talk. Yeah.
self-talk, right? Um,
Mm.
do you think that's programmed in? Do you think that is just like how everything that people see through media and things like that program that self-talk, or do you think
Um,
it's something else?
I mean, possibly. I think humans have like a negativity bias.
Right.
And yeah, definitely like our media, video games, like social media, like the news is horrible. Like when I go to the gym, it always pisses me off because they always have the news on. It's like, oh, there's a bombing here, like these people were killed here, there's a drunk driver here. I'm like, I don't want to fucking see this stuff when I'm working out. Like,
Yeah.
so it like we are constantly being bombarded by just negative images. And what like one thing that he says in Levels of Energy is like if you focus on something for even 20 seconds, you start to vibrate with it. So for example, if you watch the movie like Pulp Fiction, like classic movie by Quentin Tarantino, he says that's like a the energy level of that movie is like 50, which is super low. So if you watch it, it's normal to feel like negative after that.
How many
But the
seconds
other
do
thing
you
is
think?
like
Oh,
20 seconds, like 3 minutes, you're like in alignment, like you're at the same frequency.
wow. Which would be why gratitude brings you up
Yeah.
the scale.
Oh, that's what I was gonna talk about. Yes, gratitude. Speaking of gratitude, so I was Easter, it was just Easter, obviously. I'm not sure when you're gonna release this, but I was at my mom's place on Sunday with this girl, and my mom gave me like some presents and stuff, like a pillow and some shoes. I was like, oh, thanks. And when we were leaving, the girl was like, oh, you weren't even that grateful. I was like, what do you mean? I'm grateful. But then I thought about it in the morning when I woke up. So I wake up super early, and I usually have like a lot of clarity. And I was like, you know what? I haven't been grateful, and I thought about it, just not in that situation, but I was like, when was the last time I genuinely felt gratitude? And it was like, I was like, man, it was probably back in October when I was in Dubai. I was like, fuck, and like it. I just made the switch. I'm just like, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to sit there and try to do the same thing, or just feel gratitude just for the sake of feeling it. And I had so much more energy for the day. It was weird. It was like I like hit a new like PR at the gym, and you know, yeah,
From being grateful. That's so interesting. That's I realized how much music, how much the energetic exchanges in music. You know, there's certain songs that
yeah,
these pump up songs. I went to the gym the other day and I used to be a huge Eminem fan.
oh yeah,
And he has like, you know, like half of his songs go like pretty dark and
yeah,
most
yeah,
measure pretty low. And I was at the gym and I was like, man, I just don't want to listen to this. Like I cut my workout short because I guess I probably should have asked him to just change the station. But I cut my workout short because I was like, yeah, I just don't feel good. It was
mm,
interesting because that's what I was like continuously in high school, like that, and college. That's like the kind of music that I listen to. That and like rap.
yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. So, in levels of energy, he talks about how classical music is like usually around the 500s. So they started playing like Mozart at train stations in like Berlin or something like that, and it lowered the amount of crime there.
That
And
is
so,
wild. That is so
the
cool.
other thing with yeah, the other thing which is interesting too is have you ever like heard of the cow most music is like at 440 hertz? Do you know anything about that? And
I
so
know
like
that it's
440
like
is like detrimental.
423 is amazing or something like
It's
that.
like 432, so it's only like a difference of like
Oh,
8
430.
hertz. But it's like it's almost like they say that they basically engineered it to all be at 440, like the most mainstream music. So you can go and listen to like you can go on YouTube and search up songs that are in 440 hertz, and then like they have like a compare, like you just listen to you can hear and feel the difference. Like 432 is like positive for your body and stuff like that. Like there's a on Spotify, there's a playlist of popular songs on 432. It's interesting.
That is, yeah. I've only really played around. I've heard of that, but I've only played around with. You can just listen to a vibration. That's 432 hertz. Or
Yeah,
what's the other one? Isn't there a 500 one or a 700 one?
probably.
That's a
I
positive.
used to listen to like uh what do they call them? The binaural beats. I used to listen to those all the time, especially when I was at the gym. I actually recorded myself. This is when I was like going really hard with the affirmations. I started doing it morning and night, and but then I recorded myself speaking them, and I was just listening to the affirmations while I was at the gym and stuff. And I just or like when I was working, and again, it just for me, I just had like a ton of energy when I was doing that.
Yeah. How do you think this ties in with hypnosis or NLP? Like, for
It's
example,
it's definitely self hypnosis.
yeah. And so, do you have much experience with self hypnosis?
Not really.
Okay. Because remember when we were walking down and Zach was like struggling and he was just like out loud continuously, like, every step I go down, I'm feeling better and better. I'm feeling so good now.
Yeah,
And then
I do remember that.
he ended up being the, like, in the first group that exited. Like, he ended up walking with
Yeah.
the Walker twins really fast at the end. And he was saying afterwards, he's like, yeah, man, everything is self hypnosis. And so he gave me two book recommendations. I haven't opened them yet. Um, I have like 20 books right now, but it's what he was doing is basically like acting as if, right? Or repeating a positive affirmation about how he's going to feel, which resulted in self hypnosis. Do you know much else about like
Yeah.
not just self hypnosis, but like working with a hypnotherapist or like NLP?
Uh, I mean, one of my good buddies, Will, is he does hypnotism on people. Um, I mean, that's definitely a question for him. He'd be a good guy to have on here too. He's like, he knows a lot about mindset and astrology and all kinds of stuff. Uh, I mean, I don't know enough about it. It's actually one of the things I wanted to learn more about. It's starting to get dark.
Same. Yeah, I'm looking to like I've done NLP coaching with a coach that worked on my self-image, which is above your
Mhm.
beliefs. And like created a much more powerful self-image. One of the things that I had, I might have even told this already on one of the previous episodes, but I lived with this story that I wasn't creative. And I always repeated that in my head because I got a B in art class. And my mom's like, oh, that's okay. You're not very creative. And I just like
Right.
internalized that. And every time, anyways, I worked with him with NLP to then like not rewrite my memory of that experience as well as all the other times I've been creative, but to like make those images brighter, bigger, stronger. And that
Yeah.
instantly changed my belief about being creative. And then I added an affirmation about like, I'm really fucking creative in my mindset folder, which then
Yeah.
caused me to see more evidence of it, stack more evidence, strengthen that belief. And then I was like, oh, now I've fixed that. And so I was at that blockage. It's made me so fascinated with NLP, and like I think it's one of the best models to kind of map out reality. Have you heard
Yeah. I
the
mean,
map is not the territory?
the saying, yeah.
Do you know what it means, or what does it mean to you?
Um, when it comes to like NLP.
Just in general. Like what is why like because it's kind of cryptic, where it's kind of like, okay, so what does that mean?
Yeah, it's like, okay, like if you were to ask somebody, hey, describe God, no matter what they said, it wouldn't really be able to fully describe God because God's like this infinite thing that no one can really comprehend. It's like you can ask somebody, hey, describe what love feels like. And like they can kind of tell you, but until you feel it yourself, you have a map, but it's not a substitute for the actual thing, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Do you think future pacing?
Oh, I was gonna say one thing with the affirmations, which I found really interesting, because I started adding my own into the document. And I remember one time I wrote one in there, which was like everything I touch like turns to gold. Like I have like the Midas touch or something like that. And like 20 minutes later, one of my friends, like a copywriter guy, hit me up and he's like, Ben, like I don't know what you're doing lately, but bro, it's like you have the freaking Midas touch. I was like, whoa, like what the fuck? I get like goosebumps just thinking about it. Like that's weird. Because I actually just started reading this book called A Happy Pocket Full of Money or something like that. And it's actually really interesting book. But he basically says that, we tend to think of our soul and our mind as being like within our body, but he says like the like external reality is like an extension of our mind and stuff. And so um basically everything that you live today is based on what you were thinking, your state of being, and like your beliefs and stuff from yesterday or the days before that. So it's like external reality is always like catching up to like your state. And so yesterday, like I was like super purposely super focused on gratitude. And today, like I had like a way better day in sales. I like just felt better like all day. Like people are happier. I'm like, huh, maybe there's like something to that.
Yeah, I really think
Because they say like the world's not as it is, it's as you are, which kind of
yeah,
plays into that.
absolutely. I really think happiness is a choice. The more that
It's
I think
yeah,
about
it's
it,
just like what are you focusing on?
and at least what I found for me, I am in so much better of a state and so much more happy when I have my habits dialed in. Like when I have my non-negotiables. I remember when I was working with you, you were
Yeah.
talking about you wake up super early every day, no matter what. It's just something that you do,
Yeah.
right? You also have things that you're just like, oh yeah, there's other things that I just never do, like drinking alcohol, for example. And so what do you think the
Yeah. Because
power
your
is?
thing was like smoking weed
Mm-hmm.
at the time.
Yeah.
Which weed is like I think it's 195 on the energy scale. And so for some people, you can't just say it's bad because it depends where they're at. If they're lower than 195, then it's good because it brings them up. But if you're above 195, it's bad because it brings you down.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I actually worked with a hypnosis coach to break my, daily smoking weed pattern. And
Yeah.
it's mind blowing how much more clear I am. Like it's one of those things like the frog boiling in water where you don't realize how much it's affecting you until you stop.
Until you stop. Yeah.
Have
Same
you
with
ever,
alcohol, bro.
yeah, alcohol is a huge one. Have you ever quit caffeine?
No.
Yeah, that one's,
Bro, I tried. I got like addicted to nicotine over the past few months. Like I had Zins. I got a Zin in my goddamn mouth right now. And I tried to quit. I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm quitting. And it lasted like 4 days. I was like, oh no. I'm like the only person who's ever gotten addicted to nicotine without smoking. I'm in trouble.
no, I think there's plenty more people on money Twitter in general that
They're
similar.
just hopelessly addicted to it. Yeah. Hey, you
Yeah.
were asking me about non-negotiables and habits and stuff, though.
Yes.
I kind of cut you off.
Oh, no problem. So yeah, why do you think that when you have these have such a positive effect?
Yeah, dude. Well, I went through this course of this guy that studied Rudolf Steiner a lot, and I've read like a bunch of Rudolf Steiner's books. But basically, was one thing that Steiner said is that when you establish rhythms in your life, like it's very beneficial for you. So, for example, like when someone like Steiner was alive in like the 1800s or early 1900s, he died in like 1925. But he said when people were sick, they would get them to wake up at the same time, go to sleep at the same time, eat at the same time. And oftentimes they just get better because they've established like a rhythm in their body. And so that's part of it. Um, what was the actual question?
I don't even remember. Like why are these things so beneficial? Like these non-negotiable habits that you have, and like when you, because I'm doing something right
Yeah.
now, habit stacking, and it's like I started with one habit and then I added another one, so I'm on like day 11. And
Mm,
it's now I have two habits, and these past 11 days have been incredible. I've been so much more productive and just like happy and in flow and all of that.
yeah. I mean, there's a few angles to why you do it. I mean, the big one is like establishing a track record with yourself of like doing what you say you're going to do. And if you're always negotiating, for me, like the hardest one was actually waking up early. I did that before I quit alcohol, and I just stacked one habit at a time. So I started waking up early. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. and I was like, wow, because it was always the hardest thing for me to get up early. Like every time I did it in the past, I would maybe last like a week and then go back to sleeping in. And I was like, okay, no matter what, I'm gonna wake up at 5. And I mean, just that was really big for me. Um, because if you start your day with a win, like just waking up, like most people when they wake up, it's not a win and they don't count it as a win, especially when you're like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I just woke up, whatever, like this. But if you're like, I'm purposely going to wake up, it's a win because it's hard for me. And it's a win because I told myself I'm going to do it. And it's a win because I say it's a win. And you start your day with the win, then you go into the next win and the next win and the next win. And it just builds momentum. And so over time, you get massive, massive positive momentum. And nobody, to be honest, like, have you ever woken up early and like been really productive, hit the gym, did a bunch of deep work, and then you like regretted it? You're like, ah, I wish I slept. Like it never happens. You never regret a positive action.
It's so true. And yet it's still, that's how I feel with cold showers. And yet it's still like I never regret them, but it's still that step in.
It still sucks. Yeah. Bro,
Okay.
okay, so like I get up at 2:40. I brush my teeth, use the washroom. I I journal. I make like a green tea and then I do 100 burpees in one set. And then I do like Duolingo and then basically start my day. Um, and yeah, the other thing is just eating because eating is a big one too, because that was another hard thing for me. So I started stacking all these, a lot of them were just physical. I'd go to the gym every day, I'd do 100 burpees, I'd wake up early, I'd not drink. And just the little things like just the physical stuff. Like you don't need a crazy mindset routine. Just journaling, like, hey, well, this is what I did yesterday. I regret doing this, so I'm not going to do this again. Like I got to fight over this stupid thing. Here's what I'm going to do next time. And like what I found is that when you start off, like you might have a whole bunch of bad habits, like maybe you smoke weed, you drink, you watch porn, you sleep in, like whatever you do. As you start chipping away at them, and if you can like go through your entire day, or at the end of the day, you're like, oh man, I don't regret anything from day. I didn't waste time on social media. I didn't waste time playing video games. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't watch porn. I woke up early. I hit the gym. I ate clean. Like I did all this stuff, like everything I know that I need to do to move my life forward. And so like when you are able to do that, like you, it's hard. It's like you legitimately feel like proud of yourself. Plus, it's like the biggest cure for like insomnia because if you spend your entire day focused and working and being productive, as soon as your head hits a pillow, you're like out.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that when I'm in the cycle or the habit of working out every day, like especially if I'm
Yeah,
walking a lot, I'm so tired by the end of the day. It's like I want to go to bed
yeah,
at 9.
yeah. Like as soon as
You
the
wake
sun goes
up,
down, you're like, yeah,
yeah, exactly. The sun goes down here at 6, which is amazing. So it's I get to bed so much earlier. If you wake up at 2:40 and you're an hour ahead of Eastern time, that's
yeah,
like what, 10:40 on the West Coast Pacific time?
yeah,
So
yeah.
so what time do you go to bed?
Ah, man. Well, my work schedule is like kind of weird now. So usually I'm not done until 7 my time. When I used to go to bed at 7, so now I go to bed at like 9 or 10.
Okay.
So usually what I do is I might get like a quick like power nap if I'm super tired throughout the day, or I just tell myself I'm not tired. Or the other thing is just like part of the whole point of waking up early is like if you only wait till your conditions are optimal so that you can work, like what are you gonna do? Like as soon as things are hard, you're like, oh, I didn't get my 8 hours of sleep. I can't do it. Like you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So if anything, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do it tired anyway, whatever. And that just builds up my own self-esteem even more.
The do it anyway. Yeah, that's the Grant Cardone close, right? The do
Pretty
it.
much, yeah.
No,
And
but
you can always like catch up on sleep the next day anyway. Just like go sleep earlier.
it's so true. I think there's so much power in when you really don't want to do something. Like it's like, you're doing 75 hard and you're like, oh, I don't want to go and do this second workout like at all. But then you do it, and then afterwards you
Yeah.
feel amazing. And then you realize that you got more
Yeah.
energy afterwards, which is that was something that you told me that has forever stuck with me is going to the gym gives you energy,
Yeah.
right? You
That's why I
feel
never go at night. I never go at night because I'll be up all night.
interesting. Yeah.
And Larry, sales sensei on Twitter, I saw him say that he likes to go to the gym at night. I'm like, don't do it, bro. You gotta go in the morning.
Yeah, my ideal time is like in the early afternoon, like 3:30, right? When the gym here and where I'm at in Salento
Yeah.
reopens it's like not open during the day, it's open early in the morning and then 3:30 to 10. And I find that like it breaks up my day really well and I come back like motivated and excited to work. Like if I'm like, oh, I'm tired or I have that, after lunch.
Yeah. Like crash.
Yeah, exactly. The gym really brings me back on track.
Yeah. I mean, for a while, I try to just be more balanced in my day. So like I'd spend the first part of my day on myself, like on fitness stuff, and then I'd spend the rest of the day, like let's say 8 hours or 10 hours working. And then if I had a girlfriend or whatever, I'd try to spend the rest of the day with her. And so the only problem I would have with that is that yeah, you get more energy, but then it's like I don't know, does it cut into like your personal time? And some people
Right.
don't care. Like for me, like it's important that I realize like I spent last year in monk mode, like every damn day, basically monk mode. And I was like, you know what? I kind of miss the social, this being social. Like I guess I did it as an experiment, but it's an important part of life. You can't just be like super disciplined all day, every single day.
No. So when do you think that after you hit a certain milestone, there is like value or merit in some degeneracy or some like, I guess maybe not degeneracy, partying,
Well,
celebrating, something like that?
I mean, partying, but as long as like I don't think, I mean, for me personally, I still party, but I just don't drink or do drugs.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I definitely think you should still party and stuff, like still make time for it.
Yeah, it's a good point.
But I guess it also comes in balance, like in waves too. Like if you're like super broke, yeah, maybe don't spend as much time partying. But at the same time, though, like sometimes if you're super, like for me, like I would spend so much time just disciplined, like waking up super early, going to the gym at like 5 a.m., just crushing work, doing sales calls, doing coaching calls, making content that it's like it gets super like monotonous and your days, they just I don't know, it like going out and socializing actually like gave me more energy. And so, you know, it's funny. I remember hearing this like old school like self-help guy saying like sometimes like when you're just grinding, you think that that's the best way to get there, like to get to your goal. But sometimes when you just go out and you have fun, you get yourself in a better mood, and you might just walk out and like talk to somebody, and it turns out that like this person's like a millionaire, and you guys like form a business partnership, and you got way further just because you're in a better mood, you're more social than you would have ever got from just grinding.
Yeah, that's man, for me, I used to when I was taking sales calls all the time and like had 12 hours of calendar time open, I was really
Yeah, that's a lot.
pressed that time was scarce, right? And I was
Yeah.
constantly like always trying to use my time in the best possible way. And like here in Latin America, people don't move very fast sometimes. And so I'd be like,
No.
trying to buy bread or like trying to like get a quick meal in and then get out of there. And they're just like not in a hurry at
You're like,
all.
hurry up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just sitting there like, oh, come on. Like the person in front of me who has like, they're taking a long time or because for
They're
whatever
just like
reason.
chatting and stuff. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. What happened to you in Dubai? You came back like so full of energy. Like you're like basically
yeah.
writing your text messages in all caps. Like is what it seemed.
Yeah. I was, yeah, like Dubai, I was on like a really high point. I was like super focused. I had tons of creativity and energy, and I was making YouTube videos and all kinds of stuff. And I basically stopped working for I was working with JK and Ryan, Tweets and Clients, and basically like I was in Dubai on like it's like October 20th, and they're like, yeah, as of like the end of the month, we don't really need you anymore. I was like, damn it. So I had to find another gig, which I did, but it was just like a really shitty company. It turned out to be like the guy had seemed like he had a great brand. I won't name names, but it was like 3 months of hell. And basically I got to the point where I was like completely doubting if I even knew sales anymore, and I was making no money. I was like, fuck, I just got in my head. I just got into a super negative spiral and killed all the momentum that I had built up. And like it took me like a month and a half to just start feeling normal again after leaving that super company.
Yeah. So Dubai was the catalyst when you left, or was it also, did you go there for a mastermind or what did you go there for?
I kind of just went there just to go. I flipped a coin. My buddy was going. He's like, "Hey, you should come." I was like, "Oh." Yeah, it was the same thing. I like as soon as he said you should go, I was like, I got super excited. I was like, "Yes, that sounds awesome." But then my in my head, I was like, "Well, like, why though?" I started talking myself out of it. And then he's like, "Are you coming? Are you coming?" And like a few days later, I was like, "You know what?" And we were on FaceTime. I was like, "I'm just gonna flip a coin. Heads I go, tails I stay." And I was like, flip the coin. It's like tails. Ah, best 2 out of 3. I was like, flip the coin. It's like tails. Ah, best like 3 out of 5. By the time we got to like best like 5 out of 7, I ended up getting heads. So I was like, I'm going.
So you really wanted to go. You just had
I
the
really want to
the
go. Yeah.
thinking mind was there. That's amazing that twice in a row you got the answer no from the coin and you're just like, I'm not gonna listen to that.
I was like, yeah, fuck this coin. I'm not gonna listen to a coin.
That Levels of Energy book says that Dubai measures really high on this
It
energy.
does, yeah. Any like beautiful place, any place that has a lot like really good architecture. There's like when people are like when you go there, it's high energy. Like people all are like in really great shape. They look good. Everyone like you could tell people's energy from the way they dress, the way they present themselves, the cars they have. Like all that stuff is like sign of level of energy. And for a city like that to just appear in like a very small amount of time, like has to have a very high level of energy. Like I'm not sure what page that's on, but it's definitely in here.
Yeah, I remember that, and that made me motivated. Man, have you ever been to Sedona?
No, someone
So
else.
there's something really special about that place, and I don't know how to describe it other than just to say It's really something really special about it. And if you feel called or have the opportunity to go to Sedona, like definitely listen to it. That experience had me like, okay, I know this energy between people is real, and it seems like it's real between places. Like I went to a
It
meditation
is, yeah.
retreat in Sedona, and they're talking about these energy vortexes, and I'm kind of like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not really sure. I don't know if I believe that. Same thing with astrology, which I want to touch on in a sec too, because that's something where like it feels a bit out there for me, and I'm trying to understand it better. If you know how like I think I have a way to rationalize how it can make sense, but it's still maybe programming, who knows what, feels way out there for me. But
Well, bro, like Indian astrology is crazy if you ever study it. I'm not even like I'm not an expert on it by any means, but someone who's really good at reading like Indian astrology, they can like tell you down to the minute like when you're gonna die. Like they tell you exactly what your entire life's gonna be. It's like a script. It's like you read your entire life script in the freaking in the stars, bro.
you say
It's not just
Indian.
like, oh, yeah, like from India.
So the way that I can feel like I understand it or talk to my rational mind is like, okay, we know gravity is a force that acts on everything. We know that everything's connected, and perhaps we were born at a certain time, like when they say like when the stars align, or we were if everything is connected and like it's a huge fractal, I guess, of like things getting bigger and bigger and still everything connected, then perhaps like why wouldn't the planets also have an effect, the constellations and things like that on my experience? I don't know.
Yeah.
I still like it's not very convincing.
It's
I
hard to
just
say
thought
though.
I'm
I started believing in astrology when I worked on Cole's team because certain times of the year, uh, it would seem like like in a week I would be setting people and everyone would be getting in a car accident or they'd be breaking their feet or they'd be in the hospital, and it always happened in clusters at like just random times of the year. I'm like, huh, maybe this is like some type of astrology thing. These people just have bad signs or like I don't know, the planets are affecting them in a certain way.
yeah, I've heard the
Mercury's in
full moon.
retrograde or whatever.
I've heard the full moon thing, like ERs and things like that are like hospitals are way more crazy and there's way more accidents and all this, which doesn't make any sense, but somehow it,
Yeah, well, I mean, the moon affects the tides, and our bodies are basically 70% water, so it's
yeah,
plausible.
that's what makes the most sense to me.
When I was in Croatia, there's like certain winds that come that are like very high speed. I know we're running out of time, but like when these winds come, like apparently everyone goes crazy. That's the thing here. I can't remember what the winds are called, but they come from like Italy or something off the Alps.
Yeah, so interesting. Man, well, there's many more things I want to talk to you about, but we're coming up on our stop time here. Is there
Yeah, we can do part two someday.
Yeah, there you go. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with, either an action or like follow you somewhere or talk to you about coaching or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, you can follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. Ben W Byrne. It's all one word. Byrne. Um, an action. I mean, read a book like The Levels of Energy, Becoming Supernatural. Any book like that, pretty helpful.
Yeah. Buy books and actually read them. I'm really good at buying books, less good at
Yeah,
I have like 20
yeah,
right now. It just feels so intimidating.
yeah. I know what you mean, bro. This is like reading them and actually implementing them is like this. That's the secret.
So I was thinking about this the other day. If you read a book and you don't change any of your actions and you don't implement anything, did you gain anything from reading the book?
No, not really. Maybe you learn some like interesting information or like I don't know. Really, it's
Or
just
your
like
mind is
mental
more
mastery.
open, or your mind is more open, maybe from
Maybe.
later experience. But yeah, it's
Well, he says if you read this book, he wrote it like a certain level of energy. So just by reading a book like this, it will increase your overall energy when you're reading it. Other books are like that too, from certain
yeah.
spiritual books and stuff.
Yeah, I started reading the Bible again, and that's apparently that thing measures well above 500. And
Yeah,
I
except for the Book of Revelations, which is like a 75.
Oh really? That's
Mm.
interesting. I didn't know that. That's so cool. Well, yeah, we should definitely do a round two because I we didn't get to the what I think is the third step of reality creation, from first seeing it, second like acting as if, and like
Feeling
the
it, yeah.
manifesting part. there's still the action of action, or the part of actually like doing, like translating it into the physical, the work that needs to be done. We wish we could just meditate all day and things would magically manifest.
Yeah. Most of us can't.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you want my 10-second version of how that works, when you put in more effort as a byproduct, it raises your frequency. When you do way more every day, like it raises your frequency, and by your frequency raising, it tracks, like you have to vibrate at the level of the thing that you want. And so that's the connection.
Yes. Oh man, that brings up something else. I won't open up that rabbit hole yet, but
Yeah,
otherwise we'll
I
be
know you
going
gotta
forever.
help.
Cool. Well, thanks guys for watching. We'll do an episode 2 or part 2 sometime. And I guess I'm supposed to tell you to like and subscribe or comment for the algorithm.
Yeah. Or else.